commencing Operation Construction. In these comics, we will dive into how easy it is to radicalize groups when structures set in place do not favor in aiding their own people. Governments should be the ones ensuring all have what they need to not only survive, but to thrive. And this should not be limited to their own, but to anyone. Now keep that in mind as we dive into today's comics.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast where we are currently recapping the events of Transformers IDW 2019 continuity. I'm Onyx Prime with my two co-hosts here.
Hi, I'm Killobyte.
And I'm Clickbait.
Moving on with our comic discussion for today's episode takes us to IDW Transformers Galaxies, issues 1 through 6. And as always, spoiler warning. So if you haven't read these ones, we highly can I fit in our highly in there? Recommend you go back and read it and come listen to the podcast. Also, we have a goal to reach 500 subscribers. We'll be holding a brand new kind of giveaway we've never done before. So click that subscribe button. Tell your friends it's a good time. Now, onwards with the podcast. With that, Clickbait, do you mind giving us the fun facts and trivia about today's comics we're discussing?
Always. All right, let's get down to the fast facts and trivia. All right, so starting off facts, number of comics, we've got 6. Year released. Issue number 1 was released in September 25th of 2019, with issue 6 being released of March 25th, 2020. Issues 1 through 4 were written by Tyler Blazinski, with issues 5 and 6 written by Kate Leth and Cohen Edenfield. Our artists are going to be issues 1 through 4 by Livio Ramondelli, and issues 5 and 6 are by Alex Milne with colors by Josh Perez and David Garcia Cruz. Let's get into our trivia for this episode. Our issue number 1 is going to cover the infamous animation errors throughout the G1 cartoon continuity, depicting the reason for 2 different face or eye molds, switching from having 2 eyes and a singular visor, with the reason of a 7th consciousness inside the combiner taking control, and it's shown visually by this change. Issue number 3, the Nominus Prime's bodyguards consist of a pair of red visored bots wielding elaborate bladed spears. They appear to be transformerized versions of the Imperial Guards from the Star Wars franchise.
I noticed that.
Yeah. And then finally, in issue number 5, it could be a coincidence, or it could be a soft nod to real-world bat guano, which is a really valuable natural resource that was exploited during the 18th century by colonial powers. Although in that case it was birds and not bats, there are still places that do harvest bat droppings for fertilizer. Humans are so weird.
Humans are weird.
That is kind of weird.
Killobyte, can you give us some summaries?
Will do. Once the most respected builders on Cybertron, now eking out a miserable life on a desolated colony, Hook and Scrapper remember their first job and the discovery that changes everything. Desaurus needs some help dealing with an alien race that literally worships Bumblebee. But with a certain yellow bot unavailable, he'll have to settle for the next best thing. And as always, this information has been taken from the wiki.
Hey, Cliff Jumper isn't the next best thing. He is the best thing, okay? Gotta support my red boy.
Hey, I didn't say no name.
Moving us along. Special shout out to the Patreons who help us with supporting the show. And you can be one too by joining Swerve's Bar Patreon. Patrons. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Patreons.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patreons.
Shall we get started?
We shall.
Why not?
So our first 4 issues show us the Constructicons coming together, with the first one starting off with them eager to rebuild Cybertron and make it better, even correcting placing passive-aggressive statements towards Wheeljack's ideas, visions for how to rebuild should work. However, during their cleanup, they find an ancient artifact that might combine their efforts and yield devastating results. Thoughts?
I think it's a good introduction. I like the little story we were given of the Constructicons, that they are bots that just want to build and that's what they enjoy. They all have their own task, and they're all, one's demolition, the other one helps with the structuring and the building and rubble. I really like that. I like seeing Wheeljack, and of course Wheeljack is a scientist, but he also kind of wants to make sure everything's done safely because he doesn't want to endanger anybody. So we get that perspective there. But then we also have Termagax, I think it was their name, or if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm so sorry. But we get to see them again, which I really enjoy, that we're getting more of their role involvement in the past.
Yeah.
As they encourage the Combaticons, or not the Combaticons, the Constructicons in following their passion, kind of building, and like let them do what they want to do.
I like the same thing, just building off of how they're not just, Devastator. They're still also these individual bots with individual pasts and likes and dislikes and histories, and bringing it together that way. And Wheeljack, they're like, Wheeljack, this is our job. You have already done your part. You have your own part to do. Let us do our own thing.
Right. I can't help but when I was reading these, feel there's a lot of similarities between the 2005 continuity of the Till 1 comics, focusing the Combaticons coming together, talking about the consciousness inside one another and having to work together, and like the Combiner personality trying to come out as well. I mean, this is also mentioned in the Combiner Wars with Optimus Maximus, with Prowl and Optimus trying to decide who's in control. It was a lot of similarities, but it was very interesting on this end because you have all the bots have a same goal, is construction, right? And then the only thing that I found confusing a little bit here and there is like, because they're all the same color, sometimes there's a close-up on them and you didn't know who was talking.
Yeah. It's definitely hard to distinguish.
I definitely...
So there's mentions... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I hope as we go forward, I don't think we really get it in Galaxies, but as we go forward through these comics, I kind of want to get and learn more about this War of the Threefold Spark, because they talk about it a lot. It seems to be kind of something that has fueled basically everything that's going on. And the whole War of the Threefold Spark is why everybody's so cautious and why Nominus Prime, kicks them out to that planet that they're on.
There's other reasons why there's cautious about Devastator, and that's because there's mentions of another Combiner in the past that gone way wrong, but all we get is a silhouette.
Yes.
Any theories of what the silhouette looks like? Because it kind of looks like Computron based on the head, but I could be wrong.
Yes,
I could be wrong.
I thought the same thing as soon as I saw it. I'm like, this looks like Computron, but the feet have claws as creatures, and Computron does not have any beast beast parts. So the next best thing, and I was talking with Onyx about it as we were discussing like the comic before we recorded. I was like, it could be Monstructor, because they did cover Monstructor in the 2005. He was a major player in the Combiner story, or it could be Abominus, because Abominus does have the two little antennas on their head, and they do have beast parts. And Monstructor does not have the two antennas, but it's kind of hard to tell with the silhouette.
Wonder if there's any subtle hints in these comics.
There might be, but I didn't pick any up.
Yeah, I'm not very good with my combiners, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but I'm leaning towards Abominus after discarding Computron because of the beast.
Yeah.
Suspicious. So the Constructicons, however, are not alone in their exile and starvation. The Insecticons, through the influence of Shockwave, are there with them. And what are they up to exactly?
Well, they are Cybertron's natural recycling plant, I would say. They eat in scraps or even bots, as we will get to see here later on.
Yeah.
And they turn that into energon, and it's like I don't want to call it a hyper energon, but it's a little bit more potent than the regular energon they're excavating.
Unfiltered, hyper, yeah. They use a lot of words for it.
Yeah. And so they can produce it by eating, and eventually, like at the beginning, they were Cybertron really enjoyed them, and they studied them because they could produce their own energon, so it would help all the other bots. But eventually, the hunger grew too much, and they had to exile them over here.
Because I think they used them for cleanup after the war that we're talking about again, the War of the Threefold Spark, then that's when they got a little carried away, and then eventually they got exiled too.
Yeah, they started eating dead bots, and that's where people were like, the other bots were like, that's a no.
Yeah.
They're like, too far, too far.
I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like it's good recycling, like, reduce, reuse, recycle, but I can see how that might turn a couple heads.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. So we get to that point where the Insecticons, without the Constructicons know about, feast on live bots that are around the area, and they recycle it into pure, raw, unstable energon to power up our little green builders, so that they may take the revenge against those who banished them. What are your thoughts or favorite scenes about this? Because the art is absolutely gorgeous, and it's really cool to see Devastator unleash and shows the true horrors of like a combiner power let loose in a Cybertronian city.
Oh yeah, the art was amazing, and I loved how they captured everything that was going on. It was wonderful.
The scenes where the Insecticons are eating the bots it's gruesome, because there's one of them where like Bombshell comes from behind, it's pointing a gun. He's like, okay, turn off your vocal process so that nobody can hear you scream, and then you just see him like bite the neck as almost like a vampire, and then the bot is just being eaten alive. It was like, whoa.
Yeah, he used one of his like mind control guns on him.
Oh, I thought it was just like pointing, and so the bot was like, okay, I won't.
No, because he got like a little tiny bombshell on him.
I see.
On his forehead, I think.
Yeah, with the mind control, yeah.
Yeah.
But
they were
gruesome.
Terrifying.
It is terrifying.
They're really powerful.
But as for Devastator, I love the use of the artillery gun as the Devastator gun. I thought that was a good idea. Like, it was very cool, and like, he didn't get a gun out of nowhere, so I thought that was very well made. And he just does what he does best, devastate.
Yes.
Really earning that name. And it's them like letting loose to the seventh consciousness, which is Devastator.
Yeah, and they throughout the story they do mention that the seventh consciousness it's almost like they feel rage building up, and so that's pretty much what we see here.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts about the first 4 issues of the Constructicons before we move on to the next 2, which is an entirely different story?
I think they were very good. I like this back. We don't get to see the Constructicons backstory often, and I really enjoyed what they did here, and how they were just simple bots that just wanted to build, and because the higher ups feared them and feared their ability now that they can combine, they suddenly just became these. They had this grudge against them, and so they eventually kind of became the monster that the higher ups feared, and so it became a real thing.
They are what they were made to be.
What have you become?
I am what you made me.
Sounds familiar. Where was that from?
Yeah.
It's like a War Star scene.
I like seeing more about the Insecticons. I feel like we don't get to see them a lot, and they get a lot of, even on Cybertron, and especially in this continuity, they're entirely exiled for their literal purpose of existing. A lot of times, even, in other societies and on other planets, the scavengers of that population are often looked down upon because it's their job to scavenge. Like, that's literally their purpose, and a lot of other parts of that culture will look down upon it. So I thought that commentary was really interesting.
Yeah, the system set place, or at least they're describing, does not want people or bots to serve their own given purpose.
Right,
that
it's
they
a little
were
bit
born
like
into.
putting
They
them
really
into a
want them to
box.
form.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want them to fit their narrative, and if they're not, they're banished.
Right. But we're seeing that already.
Yeah, I like that we've got both of these 2 stories, both for origins for both of them, and I feel like it was great. Like they weaved it in a way that felt natural as they both get told. So it was pretty good.
All right. Moving us to our last 2 issues, we dive into what it's like to live in Bumblebee's shadow, aka poor Cliffjumper. I want to start off by, I really enjoy the inhabitants, the probats, getting Cliffjumper confused as Bumblebee because they don't see color, and they use echolocation, so they're like, oh look, it's Bumblebee, the great Bumblebee. And I also enjoy the flashbacks of Windblade saying, red doesn't suit you, B, and Cliffjumper says, the name's Cliffjumper, and Windblade thinks thinking he's gonna jump off a cliff, and he says, oh, it's a little extreme. That's a dark joke.
Yeah.
That's a very dark joke.
That was a very dark joke.
Man, He gets such a bad rep because even Starscream, he goes like Stumblebee, and Deathsaurus that's in the story is also keeps giving him different names.
He gets called
And-
Clickbaiter at some point.
Yeah.
So it's poor Cliffjumper.
I feel bad for Cliffjumper. I liked how they did differentiate his style a little bit from Bumblebee. You know, in some iterations we see him looking, he's literally just a red color Bumblebee, but his head structure is completely different in this one.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a lot of fun.
Which is always a good thing to have when you have like these redecoed characters. I feel like giving them a little bit more distinction from the redecoed original gives them a little bit more personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the alt mode too, that they use the Cybertronian
hover
like hover disc, but it also looks different, and I really enjoyed that
It
too.
was nice.
So why is Cliffjumper and Deathosaurus here on this planet?
Energon,
They're here
obviously.
to get Energon, because this is a I guess they.
Colony, I think, technically.
I don't want to call
colony.
it. We're gonna call it kind of
Force
a
colony.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a forced colony. The Cybertronians set it up so that the race, the bat race would, manufacture Energon for them, and then they would just take it away.
Which, like, wow, hello. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Clickbait. Where does this substance come from?
The Energon?
Yeah.
Yes.
Originally, it came from the refinery that was installed there.
Yeah.
How
How is it refined? What was it made from?
You know what happened with this? Okay, hang on.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the guano. Yeah, the guano. Technically,
They're poop.
their poop, their waste.
Their poop. And-
Cybertronians have been eating
So-
and injecting that. It's poop.
Yeah, I was thinking the
Ew.
same thing. Like I hope
after-
they don't tell the
after knowing where it came
Cybertronians.
from, like they stab it into them, they munch on it.
Ugh.
Yikes! I wonder what Cliffjumper was thinking. If eventually he just gave up, he's like, I can't even think about this anymore. I'm just gonna go home.
We did. He tried. He tried to go
Yeah.
home, and Deathsaurus was
And
like, no.
Deathsaurus was like, you know what? No. Deathsaurus was asking to get in trouble in this little arc here.
And he did.
And he did, of course. I mean, he should have. He definitely needs to go.
I mean, he
anytime.
pulled the typical move where he wanted short-term gains rather than long-term investment.
Right. Don't do that.
He was like, all of it right now, I'm gonna burn this to the ground. It's like, holy snap.
Yeah, and he even kills. He even kills their guy in charge.
The priest.
Yeah, their priest. After he's like, well, we've been keeping some.
So we're talking about this. Is there any favorite scenes or thoughts that you have about this part of the story?
I liked when Cliffjumper and Deathsaurus were fighting, but that was like it. This one wasn't as good for me. I liked the Constructicons and the Insecticons. This one was interesting. If it touched on a lot of interesting, like using less fortunate or less advanced civilizations to your benefit at a detriment of their own. I thought that was interesting, but that was it didn't do a lot. It didn't really set anything up.
How does Cliffjumper save the day? Because I know Deathsaurus tells lies to the planet about Clogjammer wanting to steal their young, and it sounds all too familiar to some crazies on Earth. Insert a meme here, if you will.
I guess I'll
years
say
ago.
it.
I did the last one.
He works with a youngling, because the youngling believes Cliffjumper. Meanwhile, the other race believes the rest of the race believes Deathsaurus, and so he's in his alt mode, and so the youngling is inside of his driver's seat, and then injects him with the Energon, giving him a little boost. Yeah, the poop Energon.
The poop Energon.
Yeah, and he goes up a ramp, and Deathsaurus is in his space chicken mode, and as he's flying around, Cliffjumper hits him in the chest, impaling him into a big stack of refined poop,
Everybody got
and
stuck with
through the
poop.
chest.
Nobody left unscathed.
Could you imagine how much do Cybertrons get pink optic? Because they definitely
I
have
don't
it
know.
now.
We'll have to ask Ratchet.
Alright,
There's one that has pink optics at the end when Deathsaurus is on the
no.
bed.
So my ending note, as the story progresses, we learn more about the darkness that Cybertronians have done to this place, and like getting the Probats to believe they shouldn't even fly.
I know.
And having them to tread their own ring. It was so messed up. But it feels very like accurate to some Earth cultures that I won't dive too much into. But the ending is very wholesome because they're no longer underneath the tyranny of Deathsaurs or the Cybertronians for that matter, because Cliffjumper's like, no, there's no more Energon here, so then they're left alone. Yeah, so then they're flying again at the end, and I thought that was a very wholesome ending to this very dark storyline.
Well, and also Cliffjumper found his calling, like found who he is.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it handled a lot of stuff, but didn't actually. It was a really good like mini plot, but I don't feel like it really contributed to the bigger plot that's happening.
No, but I do think it was setting up like some evidence that this may have happened to other colonies too, like setting the narrative of the current system in place in the big narrative, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like showing firsthand of like the bad things that are happening in the background.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And when we talk about Cliffjumper finding himself is because the day that Bumblebee was forged and he came out, there was a big celebration just like for Rubble, and everybody was happy. He got a mentor and everything like that. And then once everybody left, Cliffjumper comes out and he's like, "Oh, hey, is this everything for me?" And they're already like cleaning up, and nobody was expecting another bot. And he tries to get I forgot the race, but they're in a little globe and they're connected to these monkey-like Boing. And so he's like, "Are you
Boing with the V?"
Boing. So like he's talking to them like, "Are you my mentor?" And they just screech, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so scared." And I'm like, poor Cliffjumper.
Yeah, I felt bad for Cliffjumper. Rough start.
Rough start indeed. Is there any other notes that we want to cover or anything we want to circle back to before we go to Rod Star rating?
I don't think so.
They did a couple puns. There's one that's going full tilt. And I know there's a bot named Full Tilt, and there's Cliffjumper says he's got the touch, or you've got the touch at one point as well.
I wonder what that's a reference to.
So I like those little nods.
Clickbait?
I don't really have anything extra to add at this point. I didn't get a chance to do my top quotes of the day, which is a bummer, but I'll have to maybe add some in later.
Next time. All right, I'll lead us into Rod Star rating. So, I know it was mentioned maybe it doesn't serve the bigger narrative, but I honestly enjoy these comics. They were very well with showing the structure that is current Cybertron and all its corruptness and how it doesn't like help its people in a way and how people are dealing with it, either going full radicalizing or trying to make subtle changes throughout the system like Cliffjumper. And I think it's great. I think this is lovely. The art is fantastic. Like when I was reading these, the first four, I was like, I bet this art is from Livio Ramondelli. And you know what? It was. And then the art for the next one, Alex Mills, like, I bet it was. Yeah. And it was immediately, as we're reading these comics, we're figuring out these art styles, and they do a fantastic job as always. Wonderful. The story, the art, beautiful. I'm actually going to give this 5 out of 5 Rod Stars.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you want me to go next, or you want to go Clickbait? Like, I'm having a blast. Like before, I really like the backstory for the Constructicons and the Insecticons, and the Cliffjumper was a very dark story and very sad, but it was still enjoyable, and I liked seeing the Saurus again earlier in the continuity compared to the 2005, which was a little bit later, and we get to see him kind of transform and be in his space chicken and all that, and see his true power. So I'm gonna give these a 5 as well. I'm having a blast.
Oh my gosh. Well, I liked it. Like I said, we got some history, we got some background. I don't feel like it did the first 4 issues definitely are setting up something for the future. I could definitely feel that coming, but I'm not sure, if the last 2 are going to actually have a big impact. But I'm gonna give it. I liked it. I loved the art, so I'm gonna give it I'll give it a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5.
But listeners, what did you think of these comics? How many Rod Stars would you give it? Let us know by leaving a comment below, and let us know your favorite scenes or favorite art piece from this series. We always love knowing, because sometimes we'll miss something. Who knows? So, if you would like to get in contact with us, you can send us an email at swervesbarpodcast@gmail.com. That is SWERVESBAR podcast@gmail.com. Killobyte or Clickbait, do you have any other toys you would like to share, show off, brag about? Bragging.
You can go first this time, Killobyte.
I can go first. Well, trying to think of what else I got, but I found two of the. These are old toys. These are from the Netflix show, but two Sparkless Seekers
nice.
at Ross, and they were for cheap because I really wanted the weaponizers, so that's why I got them. So now I have two Seekers. I might try to see if I can make a costume of one of them or not, but not sure yet.
Fun. I got. I'm trying to develop a Vehicon army, so I picked up 2 more of the Transformers Prime Vehicons for my developing Vehicon army. I think I'm at like 6 with these additions. I think I'm at like 6 Vehicons.
Those are rookie numbers. You gotta.
I know. I don't like to
At
pay a
least
lot of money
13.
for them, so I only get them when I can get them cheap.
At least 113 of them.
Oh, stop! I don't have that much room.
Too bad. They make storage containers,
But I want to see them. I don't want to put them in storage.
which can also be your battle scene.
If you
No,
want to
no, you set it up.
confuse, if you want to confuse, just put a mirror behind them that looks
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's infinite.
Oh, the infinite mirrors.
Yeah.
I got a special legacy hotshot from Killobyte because they messed up your order somehow during your shipment and it got lost, and so they sent you a free one, and then both arrived.
Nice.
Yep.
So that's always nice. That's the best price I've paid for a Transformer, which is, the 4-letter F word free. Wonderful toy. Highly recommend. 10
I
out of
like
10.
it. I like it.
All right, moving us along. Are you two ready for Transformers issues 13 through 18?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Fantastic. Killobyte, do you mind taking us out this time?
Will do. If you've enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it with your friends and subscribing. If you want to help out the show even further, we have started a Patreon. All of our proceeds will go to supporting the show and keeping the lights on. Of course, we have some tiers that offer other forms of gratitude, such as 3D files and entry to our Discord channel. You'll even get early access to our comic review episodes a week before they are publicly released, and also our D&D episodes. We also have a goal to reach 500 subscribers. We'll be holding a brand new kind of giveaway we've never done before, so make sure to click that subscribe button and tell your friends it's a good time. And as always, we hope you're all staying safe out there. Thank you so much for listening to All Are One.
All are one.
So all are one.
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Swerve Podcast, and even on Tumblr. Yes, with everything going on Twitter, we figured we should cover our bases. Speaking of which, you can also find us on Twitter at SwervesBar, if that's still a thing. If you're interested in more content, try checking out our spin-off D&D series, Transform and Roll Out. Season 3, titled Eons, is now available. Let's tune in to a preview now.
I was gonna say I want to poke it with a stick, but
Okay.
you did say that everything that it touches kind of turns to like charcoal and just dark. So I think that's what would happen.
But you didn't see that. Stormburst saw it.
Then I'm gonna grab a stick and poke it.
All right. Well, shocking no one to the listeners, it turns to charcoal.
Weird. Put that stick down.
I guess I died anyways.
No, man. No. Oh.
But Stormburst, you see the small little insect bot that came along with Scorchfire behind Swartimus with a knife.
What? Who's possessing me? What?
I run and try to intercept by picking it up and kind of. I want to make it look like I tripped or something. Like I was trying to get to my chair, because I don't want to rat out Smolder, but I also don't want to make it too obvious. If that makes
Where
sense.
did I get the knife? Oh my gosh. So you see, my plan wasn't to kill the big guy. I was just gonna knock him out and steal his Who possessed me? Okay. Guys, listen. Somebody mentioned earlier that Smolder is now this team Zephyr, and that's wrong, okay? He's not a little jerk. Do you think you could give me a tour or something? Because this place seems pretty cool, and I kind of want to know what else it has.
He moves his trunk, which is still on his head in bot mode, and more elephant noise as he looks at you with joy and kindness, as if he's excited that someone is finally talking to him.
Oh, this is gonna make me feel so bad for what I'm about to do.
And you should be.
Yeah, I'm gonna smile up at him. Is that a yes?
He nods his head as yes. Flipping to Scorchfire and Stormburst.
I wanted to kick him and beat him up.
My little man.
Little man is growing power hungry.
Well, that was certainly something. There is also a YouTube channel with bonus content, such as video games containing funny comments and trendy shorts. A link will be provided below. And if you're so inclined, you can support us on Patreon, where you can get even more bonus content, such as reading files, access to their Discord, and listen to the content before it's released to the public. More links will be provided below. End transmission.